What's going on, guys? It's Aaron here. You know what the best part about doing the Schmoedown Rundown for SK Plus is? It's not talking to all the great guests that we've had. It's not breaking down each and every match every week for the Schmoedown. It's the fact that I get to do it in my underpants, and nobody can tell me not to. And if I'm going to do it in my underpants, I might as well wear the softest, most comfortable underwear you'll ever wear, which is MeUndies. Once you try them, you won't want to wear anything else unless you're naked or in a swimsuit. Every pair of MeUndies is sustainably sourced and made from micro-modal, a fabric that's 3 times softer than cotton. If you're used to buying packs of uncomfortable, boring underwear that only come in white, gray, black, tan, nobody cares about those. MeUndies will change the game. They'll change everything. Because MeUndies comes in all kinds of colors and patterns, and they release a new limited edition pattern each month that always sell out. This month is a rainbow confetti print called Celebrate. Try MeUndies today. Go get the Celebrate pattern before they're all gone at MeUndies.com/rundown, and you'll save 20% off of your first pair. 20% off your first pair plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/rundown. Go right now. That's MeUndies.com/rundown. MeUndies.com/rundown.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Schmoedown Rundown. Introducing first, Frankie Stats Janisch. And their co-host, the man of controversy, Mr. Brian Davids. And finally, your host, Aaron Turner. Let's get ready to Schmoedown.
What's going on, Movie Trivia Schmoedown fans? It is episode number 35 of the Schmoedown Rundown. My name is Aaron. I am your host as always. Joining me today, he is the stat man. He's a person that would never trade Jimmy Butler for a ham sandwich. He is Frank Janisch. How you doing, man?
Oh, Jimmy Butler. And then we traded Jarmelson. It's been a rough 24 hours in Chicago sports wise. But yeah, I'm glad we're doing the Schmoedown Rundown because it's going to take my mind off of the sports debacle that Chicago's experiencing right now.
We're 10 seconds into the show and we're already off course. Sorry, Dad. Hey, Brian Davids is also here. Brian, how are you today, sir?
Aaron, I predicted this week's matches yet again, but I saw another long-term prediction come true as Ken Knapsack is doing the news on a regular basis for Schmoedown.
Wait, can we start that again? All right. Okay, guys. So we're here. It's episode number 35, and I'm already way flustered. Let's get this show going. Achievement unlocked. Get Brian Davids to laugh. All right. Well. All right. So we have some news this week. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Inside Schmoedown this week. It was not with the pit boss, as Ken stepped away this week and allowed the commissioner to take his spot. And we had Christian on there with Mike Kalinowski. But before we get to talk about Mike, let's talk a little bit about what Christian announced about the Ultimate Schmoedown later this year. It was originally conceptualized as a bunch of fatal 5-ways in terms of singles, and now it's going to a 16-player person format. Frank, we're a big advocate of this. I feel like you're really into this. What did you think?
Oh, I love the announcement going back to the original 2014 format where all the magic happened and got this ball rolling as we now know it at Collider. So I was really happy to see this announcement be made. I was just getting warmed up to that fatal 5-way frenzy, Ultimate Schmoedown style. I was just barely getting warmed up to it. And I was like, yeah, it'll be pretty good. But I'm happy that we're going back to the way things were when it all started. And I'm looking forward to this 15-week tournament, right?
It's going to go on. Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of fun because the last time we had the Ultimate Schmoedown, even though it was with 8 players, The brackets was a lot of fun. I missed, if Makuga just lost to Wolf, I would have had a perfect bracket. So I'm going to try and get a perfect bracket this year. I think I can do it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Brian, as a person that's a big fan of Fatal Five Ways, as I know you are you disappointed that these are no longer going to happen and they're going back to a tournament format?
We dodged a bullet, guys. Thank God. Last year's format was perfect. Adding teams to the mix is even better. I'm glad everyone came to their senses and dropped the Fatal Five-Way idea.
And of course, what's going to happen is the singles will run to a certain point when we get down to, I believe, the last two. And then the teams will start running. They will run concurrently, not consecutively. Any other thoughts on the Ultimate Schmoedown tournament going back to its original form? Moving on. Now, Mike the Killer Kalinowski was Christian's guest, and they discussed a multitude of things. They talked about Rachel Cushy, and they talked about Team DC movie news and how that's all coming together. Brian, did anything stick out to you with the Killer this week?
Well, Handsome Harloff tried to downplay our take on Mike Kalinowski by saying that we just thought he had an interesting personality. What I said prior to his recent run of matches was that he'll be an interesting player to watch because he could be elite. We just didn't have enough tape on him. Well, now we have enough tape on him, and he's definitely put himself in the elite conversation, at least as far as inner geekdom goes. So, Christian, a little bit of a misquote, but I'm glad that you recognized us, and I'm glad that we got to hear more about who Mike Kalinowski is.
Frank, any thoughts on Mr. Kalinowski's turn on Inside Schmoedown this week?
You know, I'm not super sold on Kalinowski. I was taking a look at his percentage in the inner geekdom. Like, on its face, it looked like he had a great match. But he was in the 60 percentile range, the upper 60 percentile range, answering questions in the inner geekdom. He got a lot of points, and that looks nice, but when it comes down to answering the questions, he wasn't as strong as one might think based on how many points he accumulated. So I'm not completely sold on his potential dominance in inner geekdom. He certainly has the potential. I'm just not sold he could be consistent because we've only seen him once, and we've seen what he does in the singles, which is not, I guess, the greatest at this point. We'll see what happens against Brienne. So when Christian did say that, I was like, you know what? I think I might actually agree with that, even in retrospect. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting.
Is Kalinowski your new Snyder? Have you replaced Jeff?
Oh, no one can replace Snyder. Oh, no way.
Well, Frank, please do not bury our possible future guests, or you will be replaced by Ron Howard.
Oh,
all right, let's jump in.
You'd only be so honored.
Let's go ahead and get out of this. Let's talk about the matches. How about that? Let's do some of that. Let's recap the team match this week. It was Team Action, Ben and Andrew versus Late to the Party, the first fans in the Schmoedown. Vanessa and Robert took the stage. Let's talk about the promos a little bit. Now, Team Action, for me, was a team that initially I didn't really care for. I just thought they were just typical, like, frat boy guys I didn't really connect with at all, and just they kind of annoyed me. But slowly but surely, they are winning me over. Their entrance with the reaction video was a crack up. I really liked what they did there. I like their pre-match promo. I like the little, and this kind of goes into the first round, but I'll keep this brief. When they made the joke about, congratulations for winning the sweepstakes. We're glad you could be in this charity matchup. Classic. I really enjoyed that. That was a great move. So, Brian, tell me what you think about Team Action here. Are you on board with them now?
I won't say I'm a fan of theirs, but I absolutely love the charity match digs. I love that they kept calling them by the wrong names. I didn't dig the chair reaction stuff. I just thought it was a bit too much effort for very little payoff. The charity stuff was much funnier, and it took far less work. But look, they're fun to watch. They're kind of becoming a younger version of the Patriots, not in terms of age, but just in terms of league experience. So I'm excited to watch them. So perhaps they are winning me over.
Charity, you say? All right, Frank, what did you think of Team Action? Are you on board with them?
I'm getting a little more on board with them. I'm definitely on board with their antics. I think their pre-match talk is some of the best we've seen in the Schmoedown. It was hilarious. The charity, the sweepstakes, all of that was great. Had me cracking up. As for their play, their first rounds aren't exactly performances to be desired by. So, yeah, I don't know. The jury's still out on their play, but I like their antics. That's something for them.
Well, of course, the Schmoedown is part skill, part show. That's part of the deal. So they're getting over with me. I'll be the person on the island and say they are getting over with me so far. In round one, it was Team Action getting 9 points. Late to the Party getting 13 points, which allowed Robert to go for a 1-point bonus, which he did get for a 14-point first round for Late to the Party. Quite a debut right there. Brian, what did you think of this?
Wait, who's Robert?
Exactly.
That's the guy kicking your ass.
Exactly. I was setting up one of you for that. Great line by Robert. He really dished it back to Team Action with one response. So that is another classic moment. The one who's kicking your ass. Great stuff. And yeah, he was the first one to get a bonus point question correct. Billy Madison, Bradley Whitford, great guy, great character, great actor. I don't know why I said great guy. He's probably a terrible guy, but interesting stuff and quite a debut. The first round questions were a little easy in both matches this week, but more on that later.
Oh, okay. Frank, what did you think of round one?
Oh, round one was quite impressive. As someone who was fortunate enough to be at the match, I can tell you that the people in the crowd watching Robert and Vanessa answer these questions against Team Action, a lot of people, I think, 3/4 of that way through the first round thought Team Action is in for a hell of a ride. And then Robert gets 8 out of 8, and then he answered the bonus question correctly. People were turning their heads and saying, this is for real. This is happening. I don't know if Team Action's going to have it in them to get out of this hole. Being down 5 points, that's a pretty big margin in the Schmoedown. And then going back to what Brian said about the kicking your ass moment, everyone was dying laughing in the audience. It was a great moment, and just I think people were kind of surprised with the moxie that especially Robert brought, being this rookie, this first-time player, being on this stage for the first time, and people were loving it in the audience. And from the sound of it, from what I can see and tell, the fans out there also enjoyed Robert's performance as well.
Especially Rosica. He seemed to really gravitate towards that. That was pretty funny. Frank, I appreciate you not breaking the embargo that you were actually at these matches for this week. So I appreciate you not breaking that. That's very cool. We're going to get more of your takes for actually being there as we go on. But let's jump to round two now. It was Late to the Party going with Westerns on a second spin, going 5 of 6 for 9 points. Pretty strong there in Westerns. Team Action rolls their strength. Action Adventure goes 6 for 6, as they should, getting 11 points, plus they grabbed a 1-point steal of Jack Palance. Late to the Party still led after round two, 23-21. It was quite a big gap there for a minute. Wasn't sure if Team Action was going to be able to get out of the hole, but they managed to do it. Brian, what did you think of round two?
I thought Late to the Party was done for when they spun Westerns. They spun away from Action and Adventure, fearing the worst because that's Team Action's strength, and then they spun Westerns of all categories. But then something happened. They got probably some of the easiest Western questions you could get. Yeah, I said the round one questions were a little bit easy, but as far as Westerns are concerned, they really got some favorable questions in this round. I mean, the Red Sashes and Tombstone, those are references I've made at least twice on this show in recent weeks. Christian Bale in 310 to Yuma as well. So favorable spin with Westerns nonetheless, 9-point round. But then Team Action, once again, they've got the Team Heroes type luck. They got their strength, and then they made it a match with a 12-point turn, made the round three awfully interesting.
Frank, what did you think of round two here? Any telling stats going on here?
Late to their round two, I thought, no one's really that great in Westerns, and sure, maybe they've been favorable questions, but they still are able to weather that storm. They got 9 points in that turn of theirs. Team Action landing on Action Adventure, super, super fortunate, because here's some behind-the-scenes stuff. Their initial spin wasn't deemed, I guess you could say, worthy enough, so they kind of stopped in mid-spin and then made them start over and spin again. And as luck would have it for Team Action, they landed on Action Adventure. So it's kind of like Team Action spit in the eye of the Schmoedown powers that be. So it worked out to their advantage. Got 12 points, one of the highest point totals for a second round performance this season. Great stuff. That got them really back into the match and made it close. But still, coming out of that second round, I think a lot of people thought that Late to the Party was actually going to pull this off. I was one of them for sure. I thought they were going to do it. I thought they were going to do it. And my vision was a little short-sighted because the third round can really trip people up. And as we get into it, we'll talk about what just happened with them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's jump into round 3. It was Team Action going first, grabbing 2 points. Roland Emmerich directed 2012. Jumping back to Late to the Party, they did not get the 2-pointer, which was Vivian Lee. We jump back to Team Action, plus 3 points for getting Love Bug. Good pull there by Andrew. And then the 3-point question for Late to the Party. Unfortunately, it was the Nerds' Kryptonite, sports movies. Nick Nolte was the coach in Blue Chips. Kevin Costner was the guest. Sort of close, I guess, but not quite. Comes down to the 5 for Late to the Party. And Justice for All, Al Pacino gets them back into the lead. So it was all up to Team Action. What did they sell in role models? It was energy drinks. And Team Action breaks the team scoring record by scoring 31 and defeats Late to the Party 31-28. Brian, what did you think?
Man, awfully action-packed final round, but I think we identified some weaknesses in Late to the Party via classics and sports movies. So, again, this may not be the case. It may have just been the questions, but it seems like these are weaknesses, and I'm sure they'll be doing everything they can to study up and train in those particular categories. But once again, Action really kind of showing their versatility, whether it's disaster movies, sports movies, bizarre love bug movies, Herbie Rides Again, whatever the hell that is. And then the role models question, the role models question is basically built for Team Action. Those guys have probably seen role models 15 times each. So unbelievable accomplishment with 31 points.
Well, this third round was very telling about what Team Action could possibly do, because we've seen them get quote unquote lucky in the second round, 2 matches in a row getting Action Adventure. And then when you get into the third round, the questions are more varied. So last time they got drama, Pixar, and then actually they got directors, which they did get in this round against Late to the Party. One thing I will point out is Team Action is the 4th team this season to have a perfect 10-point third round. So not a lot of teams get a chance to obviously answer all 3 questions, but when they do, only 4 teams have done it, earned 10 points. So that's something to be impressed by. And I take a look at their final numbers. Team Action was 19 of 26 for 73% accuracy. And then Late to the Party was 20 of 25 for 80%. Now, Late to the Party, their 80%, that ranks tied for 10th all time in terms of accuracy rate. So despite losing, which in fact they are now the 2nd team to ever score 80% or above and lose. So a lot of stuff just really went against them right there at the end when everything was going so much in their favor for 2/3 of this match.
Let me make a quick point here. I'm going to try to get this to come across to land correctly. I think that Late to the Party losing like they did is the best case scenario for them. Because I was afraid that if they won, it was going to be sort of that Cody Miller JTE talk was going to happen, where, oh, it's rigged, and of course Late to the Party won. Christian loves them. Of course they were going to win. Why would they lose? So that was one part of it. The other part was if Team Action blew them out, then it's like, well, why did we even have fans in this at all? And we'll never have fans in this again because you're just going to get blown out. So in a way, losing this close was the best thing that could have happened to them.
That's a great point. I like that point, because there's no conspiracy here. There's no cynicism that you can attach to this. It's a great match either which direction. And the previous record, Rotten Tomatoes, that was set against IGN, correct?
That's correct.
And it was a high-scoring match on both sides. This match was a high-scoring match on both sides. So is it unfair that records can only be set when both teams are scoring a lot of points? Because it's kind of unfair to those teams or to those players who could go on to set records but can't because their opponents aren't doing their part to keep the match going so that the full set of questions are asked. So someone proposed this, I think on Facebook. They said, what if you had a team or a player answer their questions even though they've won the match already, just to see if they would have set the record? Because it is kind of unfair that you could be on a record pace, only you're stopped short because your opponent isn't extending the match to get you those questions. So, Frank, did you have a take on this? I'm sure we wouldn't want to extend the matches or ask those questions, but it is something to consider when you basically have to have your opponent killing it for you to even set a record yourself.
Right. Like, as we'll see when we talk about the match between Tim Franco and Matt Atchity, Tim was on a path to potentially score even more points, right? He could have had 10 more points. Now, when you look back at Bibbiani and Draco's match, Bibbiani doesn't break the record without Draco being as good as he was. That's true. But what I will say about that is if you're a good enough player and you win a couple matches, you're going to eventually face better competition, and they will give you the opportunity.
That's true.
To get to those records. And I think I saw Chris Skaliski, he made a comment about what you were talking about, saying in baseball, if the home team is leading going to the bottom of the ninth, or by the time the ninth inning ends for the visitors, they don't play the bottom of the ninth, even though they could score more points, or I'm sorry, runs. I'm not sports illiterate, guys. So
sure.
I know good sports stuff. So, I mean, I see the argument there, but there's also the fact that as they go on in the league and play better teams, they're going to have those opportunities to reach those records. And that's what I would counter with.
Well, that baseball analogy was actually pretty good because
it was.
The only thing that kept popping into my head was like the Warriors are up by 50 and Steph Curry's still shooting threes. That doesn't make any sense. You call off the dogs when it's time. So that's kind of all I had.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing. They bench him with like 10 minutes to go in the fourth because the other team is getting blown out by them. So yeah, the Warriors could have scored another 50 points in a quarter because they were on fire, but they sat their best guys, and so the points are less than what you thought they would have been.
There it is.
So it's kind of the same thing like that.
Yeah, I think the baseball analogy was way better, though.
If I was in the Schmoedown,
I'm just trying to help you out here.
I appreciate it.
If I was in the Schmoedown, I would keep saying, well, I would have set the record had my opponent done his job.
I don't
Absolutely.
doubt that.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great line. That's a great line to use against
Thank you.
Opponents and the people you just beat to further bury them. I mean, that's if you're a heel, that's what you say.
Burying them heels. I like what we're going here. Let's talk about the post-match interview. Actually, real quick about late to the party. I personally would have given Vanessa an extra bonus point just because of her Artemis shirt. I see what you did there. I'm a fan of Ready Player One. Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Great book. Soon to be a film adaptation by one Steven Spielberg. So +1 for the Artemis shirt. I appreciated that. That doesn't really count. But in the post-match interview, late to the party, we're very humbled to be a part of the Schmoedown and had a very nice message to fans. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then Team Action did their kind of deal where they were half heels, half face, kind of doing the back and forth kind of thing. So, Brian, what did you take away from these interviews?
A couple observations. I love Jen Sturger's head turn towards the camera. She does this thing where she just does a slow head turn to kind of wink at the camera, kind of smile at the camera. I love what she's doing. I love the variety that we're getting with Jen and Grace and Emma. And so I like that they're giving kind of not more equal opportunity, but more reps to everyone. So good stuff there. I love that Team Action kept the wrong names going with late to the party, but they did pay some respect to them. And I absolutely love how the Schmoedown is using Ben and Roxy's relationship as kayfabe, or as bait, you could say. So amazing stuff there. Who knows what they're going to do with that? Maybe it'll connect to Ricky's storyline somehow. Who knows? But late to the party, Robert, I think specifically mentioned something that I've been asking our guests lately, and that's about, is it really the lights that are daunting, or is it the audience? I would think that it's the audience that is more daunting to play in front of, the in-studio audience, when you've got Roca and Bibiani and Makuga, all these guys kind of yelling out at you and kind of putting some pressure on you in person. And they mentioned that that is the more intimidating factor to them. So I thought that was an interesting point, because that's something that I've been wondering a lot lately per our interviews. So they're going to come back. Obviously, this was a very successful debut, even in a losing effort. Frank, any post-match thoughts?
The one thing that I love that Team Action did in their post-match, specifically Andrew Ghai, calling Jen Sturger Jessica Sturger absolutely floored me. I was dying. That was and he did it so nonchalant and just so naturally that it was amazing. That's my favorite moment. But what led to the party?
Know her name, or was that an unintentional mistake?
Hey, you have to ask him.
I guess I will.
So late to the party, everything that they said, absolutely 100%. They're great ambassadors for the fans in the Schmoedown, being this the first time that fans get to play. And I thought they did an excellent job representing the fans. They have, because let's say they went in there and they just tanked, you could say that they more or less ruined it for everybody else. But now this really opens the door for many, many possibilities, and possibly other fans down the line to get a shot. That's right, Team Rundown, to get a shot at playing in the Schmoedown, and that's an actual possibility now. That late to the party, I guess, trailblazing in a way for the fans to make their way potentially into the Schmoedown. So that's really exciting stuff.
Well, as we were told this week, we're not fans, so I'll leave it at that. But let's actually move on to something else, because Frank, you were there, you were in studio, you got to see all this stuff go down, and you actually got to sit down and talk with Andrew Ghai of Team Action and Robert Vanessa of Late to the Party. So let's go to that right now.
All right, here we have Andrew Ghai from Team Action. He just narrowly escaped from Late to the Party. What was going through your mind after the first round?
Legitimately, man. After the first round, he crushed it. He went undefeated. He got the extra question, and then they went first in the second round. By the time that we got to answer questions again, we were down 13 points going into the third. So there was, even if we aced that round, we would still be losing. So I looked over at Ben, and even though we had our sunglasses on, we just had this moment of what did we get ourselves into?
Yeah, you guys were down pretty big, especially after their turn in the second round. What does it do to your psyche, or does it not really affect, because you have an opportunity to make up ground?
It definitely messes with you a little bit. It's never fun to see yourself down a lot, but after last match against the Nerds Watch, where we came back from a massive deficit, it was just one of those things. It's the first round's brutal. It really is. And to anyone out there that wants to play, the first round sucks. You have no idea what you're going to get. You don't really get a lot of time. You don't get a person to confer with. So I honestly, if you watch, I'm kind of trying to have fun in the first round. It's because I'm trying to not let it bother me that I'm not going to do well, because I just don't do well in the first rounds. And then the second round, the fact that they made me respin, and then I got Action Adventure, that's their own damn fault.
Yes. Late to the party, two fans. Yeah. Would you ever play two fans again, given what just happened to you?
I don't ever want to play two fans again, because that I did with how we are with our personas on the show, to lose to two fans and then try to have any credibility going forward is just a joke. So, and then I don't know if you saw the other singles match with Tim. Fans are no joke. They're the same as all of us. Everyone loves movies, so you can never discredit people.
All right, thanks a lot, Andrew. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, man.
Thanks. Frank again with Late to the Party. They just got finished with their match against Team Action. It came down to the wire. You guys were kicking ass throughout the entire match. What did it feel like to have that kind of a lead so early on in the match?
Well, we knew the wrath of picking the wrong numbers, and we knew the wheel would dictate pretty much how the game would go. So personally, for me, I did not think we had it in the bag yet. It was great looking over at the scoreboard and seeing us so high up, but we have seen that swing so much that I knew that that game could turn around and become neck and neck if the wrong numbers were picked, and that happened.
I'll admit, watching the match, right after that second round happened, I said, I think these guys are going to do it. I got a little bit ahead of myself. It seems like you did not, which is good. Vanessa, the third round came up. You got sports. What was going through your mind when you got that question?
As soon as that question came up, I was like, oh, great. I don't really watch sports movies unless, of course, it's like Major League or Angels in the Outfield or The Rookie or something like that, like the Disney ones. But as soon as it hit, I was like, oh, please let it be one of those. And then when the answer was, I was like, nah, I'm just going to guess. And I guessed. So that's my go-to answer is going to be Kevin Costner now.
Good one, good one. How does it feel to perform the way you did despite losing?
I feel great. I was just wanting to go in there and have fun. But then as soon as we were like beating them and just like racking up our points, I was like, oh, we got this in the bag. And then in my head, I had Han Solo in the back of my head was like, great kid, now don't get cocky. But, you know, that third round, it was just killer.
Robert, take me through what was going through your mind in that first round. You were only the second person in the team division to get all 8 right, and the bonus. The guy who did it first was Matt Atchity, who ironically played your good buddy, Tim Franco. What was it like going on that kind of a run?
So the entire time I was on that run is, well, when's the question coming that I have absolutely no clue what the answer is, and it never happened. Every question that dropped, it was basically at the back of my mind, or it was something that I knew 100%. But there was one question in particular, which was, I believe, the Bradley Whitford, which was at the bonus point, where the way I got there was because on our wall at Late to the Party, we have Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is by far one of our favorite movies of all time. And Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins are the two, primary monitors of that movie. And after watching that film, it was, no question. But I didn't know Bradley. I blanked, essentially. And the way I got there was through Richard Jenkins. I know Richard Jenkins right off the bat, and his Bradley Whitford was just rolled out. But honestly, I was waiting for one to come that I didn't know, and it didn't happen all the way through. And I was quite surprised, but obviously elated with joy that it went that way.
Well, despite the outcome, Robert and Vanessa, you guys are in the record books. You guys went up. You threw up one of the highest point totals we've seen in the league. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough, but we're going to have you back in the league. How excited are you to come back, Vanessa?
Oh, I'm super excited. I'm ready to go. Like I said before, I have the bug now. Before the match, I was nervous and scared. Like, oh, maybe the lights will get to me. But as soon as I sat down, got that first question, and I was like, okay, I'm good.
Essentially, I'm super excited to get more matches under our belts, but at the same time, when you come out with this big kind of high score and a lot of respect off the first match, everything could go completely wrong the second match, so that's weighing on me. But at the same time, I proved myself, hopefully, and Vanessa proved herself, and we did it together, so that should at least give us a little bit of a leg to stand on for the time being, heading into our future matches.
All right, that's been Late to the Party, and when they come back, I think it'll be highly anticipated. Thanks a lot, guys, and good luck in the future.
Thank you, Frank.
So, folks, we were not kidding when we said Frank was on assignment. Frank, thank you for fulfilling your assignment in a very, very effective fashion. I want to bring up a point that Robert made, though, and he said, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm paraphrasing, of course, because we've seen a lot of people debut in a fashion like this, where they score a lot of points, they get a lot of people excited, the Beast, the Vulture, Android, of course. So I like that he has a level head that, hey, look, this could all go wrong in our second match. We saw Bibiani lose in his second match. Drew McQueenie lost in his second match. So I like that they have been watching long enough to have a level head about things.
Actually, Drew lost in his third match.
Third match, second match, same point.
Well, it would have been big if he got to 3 wins in a row. It would have been one of the few players in the league.
The point still stands.
I'm just saying.
It's his job. It's his job to know that.
The point still stands, though. I mean, a lot of times they will come out swinging, beginner's luck, rookie's luck, whatever it is, and then the second match is when everybody gets humbled. So I like that they are approaching this wisely.
Any other takes on the interviews? Frank, great job on there. Any other takeaways?
I find it pretty funny that Andrew Ghai wants no piece of any future fan matches. I think that's really great.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. Now he has a healthy fear of the fans. So, way to go there. One point I actually didn't make, and I kind of want to go back to it if we can, is in round 3, Team Action, when they were picking their numbers, just went 1, 2, 3. They completely glossed over that, and they just quickly were like, "We're not playing this game. Just 1, 2, 3. Like, let's get it over with. Like, we're not doing all this pomp and circumstance." I just thought that was really cool, so I just kind of wanted to shout.
I think that's product of their persona in the league. So it's not so much a strategy as much as them playing up their characters. Just screw it, 1, 2, 3. Not they don't have any lucky numbers, or some teams have lucky numbers or that they like to pick. Team Action is just like, because of their character, I think that's kind of where they were coming from.
Do you guys remember JTE's mispronunciation of Kelly McGillis?
Of course.
He said Kelly McGinnis.
Yeah.
And so when I heard Kelly McGillis in that Top Gun question, what was her nickname? It was Charlie, of course. For some reason, because I've heard JTE's mispronunciation so many times, I thought, wait a second, is it McGillis? Is it McGinnis?
Right.
Because I've heard the mispronunciation so many times, I actually thought that the correct name was actually the mispronunciation. Thanks a lot, JTE.
Don't get caught up in the fake news, Brian.
Exactly. Spreading fake news.
Plus, you said, "What? Wait a second. That's my catchphrase." I'm going to All right, let's move on to the singles recap this week. It was a debuting Tim Franco from Late to the Party versus a singles debuting Matt Atchity from Team Rotten Tomatoes. And the promo notes I have here, not much. Pretty standard. It was a decent back and forth. Matt looking a little laid back with the sipping Mai Tais with his Hawaiian shirt. Seems to be his kind of gimmick now. Kind of relaxed. I like that. And Tim was just very respectful, as we kind of expected. A little bit of trash talk at the end. I think he was getting a little pump up off camera to pump it up a little bit, but it was okay. It was fun.
First off, Tim Franco reminds me of the dad on Hulu's Casual. The guy's name is Zach Orth. That is something you can look up later. More importantly, though, Booker T did his Keys to Victory segment.
Damn, you're right.
From a Christmas tree lighting at his local shopping mall. So that's the latest edition of Where in the World is Booker T?
Oh, I gotta get music for that. You gotta remind me to get music for that.
It's a thing, guys.
It is, because since you mentioned it, Brian, every time I see Booker T do a segment, I'm always looking at where the hell is he at.
Exactly.
And
it's never the same.
It's amazing.
It's a running gag here.
Well, starting with round 1, question 1, Harold and Kumar 1-1. Question 2, Long Kiss Goodnight. Gina Davis tied it up again at 2. They're now doing these close-up shots once or twice every episode. They did it to Atchity in this one. And I can't remember if we brought this up last week on the air or not. I know we discussed it, but it's not working for me. So you guys have any thoughts on the close-ups real quick?
I have a thought on not necessarily the close-ups, but the picture-in-picture that we have with the entrances, and then we have Ken and Christian or whoever in a smaller screen. I don't like that either, because these competitors spend so much time choreographing these entrances and these costumes and different things that, no offense to Christian and Ken, I don't want to see them while that's going on. I want to pay attention to them and their entrances and what they've worked on. No offense, but I don't understand why that's there. I wish it would go away. I don't like it.
I'll be honest. I actually, because maybe it has to do with the fact that I watched the match on my phone, that I didn't notice the picture-in-picture. Or I wasn't looking at my phone at the time it was happening, because I'm usually watching these matches while I'm at work about 90% of the time. So I'll have to go back and look at that, actually.
But thoughts on the close-up? I mean, it's kind of awkward because they don't know that there's a close-up happening, and it just kind of, you don't kind of get the reaction that they probably want.
Yeah, it's very weird. I get that they're trying new things, and I appreciate that, but neither one of those are working for me.
Yeah, I think We'll just get better close-ups next time. That's all.
I think I would rather have a crowd cam than I would those close-ups in the picture-in-picture.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, I don't know if they would want to, like, we've seen it before, but aesthetically pleasing. I mean, there's a bunch of office chairs and a couch.
Well, that's fine.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
fine.
but if coming from their side of the things, I think they probably want something a little more nicer looking if they're going to show that consistently.
For me, if they're going to do close-ups, director Harloff should just get a couple close-ups on purpose where you look happy, you look bummed, look frustrated. That way the editor has actual reactions to plug in there if they want to do a close-up, even though they're not genuine. But that's just me. That's what they do in the real TV shows. But not that this isn't a real TV show. I'm just saying actual TV shows with direction. But moving to question 3, Jinx, Die Another Day, Halle Berry, 3-3. Question 4, Denzel and Viola in Fences, 4-4. Very evenly matched so far. Question 5, Penny Lane in 2001's Almost Famous. That felt like a repeat question, even if it was worded slightly differently. Tied up again, 5-5. Cocker Spaniel Christmas Gift, question 6, from Lady and the Tramp, 6-5. The Tank. Question 7, Roy in Close Encounters, Richard Dreyfuss, friend of Ron Howard, 7-6. Tim Franco. And question 8, The Witch, 8-7. The Tank. He also got his bonus question, as we pointed out, with Robert, his friend, his comrade. And what was the poison food in Raiders of the Lost Ark? The dates, of course. So the Tank with a big debut in round 1, 9-7. And this is why I said earlier that the round 1 questions in this week's matches were kind of easier than usual. I'm not trying to take away anything from Late to the Party, but a little easier as far as round 1 goes. The rest of the matches were difficult as usual, perhaps more difficult in some spots. But round 1, I think there's a reason why we had 2 bonus point questions this week, because of the degree of difficulty. Aaron, do you agree or disagree?
I'm with you. I thought they were a little bit easier, but then again, that's a relative term when it comes to movie trivia. One thing I do want to point out, though, is Matt Atchity missing the Lady and the Tramp question. A little bit of foreshadowing there for what would come later, maybe, due to an animated miss there.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, pretty solid round 1. The bad dates question actually gave me a chuckle because that's kind of an inside joke between me and my father-in-law, but I digress. But, yeah, first round pretty solid. Good for Tim for Late to the Party to have back-to-back bonus questions. That's pretty impressive.
Frank, how do you feel about the poison dates?
Well, personally, I don't like poison dates. So, yeah.
Yeah, me neither.
Bad dates.
But speaking to this first round, Tim Franco is the only person, specifically talking about the singles division, is the only person to get 9 points. Yes, Bibiani went 8 for 8, but he failed to answer correctly his bonus question. But Tim Franco is the sole owner of that record now. He has 9 points in the first round, the only person to do it since the institution of this 8-question round and a bonus question. And then, we're also pretty much a brain fart away from Matt Atchity going 8 for 8 as well and possibly answering the bonus question. He's done this before in the team division, where he won 8 for 8 and answered the bonus question. He was the first person to ever do it. And he almost did it again here if he didn't have that brain fart in the animated category.
Besides Zach Orth, you could say that the Tank looks like Bibiani's younger brother. So Tim Franco has a lot of doppelgangers for some reason.
Baby Signor, I believe is what they called him.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like Baby Bibiani or Zach Orth a lot more, just to be honest. But maybe that's because I'm a Collider fan. But so round 2, it's 9-7. Tim Franco, Matchety spins comedy, chooses to spin again, only he lands on romantic comedies. Yes, he kept the ticker on comedy, so the curse of not moving the ticker continues, sort of. Question 1, when Harry met Sally, they debated over Casablanca. 9-9 tie. Atchity's back in it. And question 2, Channing Tatum and Amanda Bynes starred in a film called She's the Man. Matchety needed multiple choice to go up 10-9. Question 3, Matchety needed multiple choice again as Annie in Bridesmaids baked a cupcake. Matchety went up 11-9. Question 4, 500 Days of Summer, JGL's favorite place, a park bench that was stolen by the Tank as Matchety's lead was cut to 11-10. That was the end of a 4-point round for Matt Atchity. plus the 1 point steal for Tim Franco. It's 11-10. Frank, what are your thoughts at this point in the match?
At this point, with Matt going first in the round, I thought it was an interesting move by Tim's part. I'll get into that when we talk about Tim. Atchity, he weathered the storm, and he came out with 4 points during this turn. And, if you want to be a competitive player in the singles division, you need to be hitting 6, 7 points, even 8 points to show me that you're going to be a competitive player in the singles division. Came out with 5. It's an okay number, but I think we saw signs from Tim in that first round that it was going to take more than 5 points to get past Tim. And as we get into Tim's round, that became quite evident.
The 500 Days of Summer question was just inexcusable. I mean, you can think of that movie and just picture JGL sitting on a park bench. That really hurt Atchity. But Aaron, thoughts on Matchity's turn so far, including Tim's 1 point steal, as we're sitting at 11-10?
Well, I haven't seen 500 Days of Summer, so I would be kind of out of the loop on that one. So
great film.
As big as a JGL fan that I am, I was actually really impressed with Matt's ability to pull the romantic comedy answers. I know he did not get them all, but as a person, not me personally, but Matt is a husband and father, so I'm sure that he's seen his fair share of romantic comedies. I'm only conjecturing here. And as someone that has kind of gone through that as well, I've forgotten more than I remember. So, and Matt did make a point to say that in the pre- and post-match interview about retaining movie knowledge and, forgetting certain films as he sees just about everything, and certain fans hold on to certain things. So I don't know if that was maybe a point of emphasis here where he didn't quite get as many points as maybe he thought he could, but still a pretty decent round for Matt.
Well, Tim Franco spun the Wildcat Sandy Bullock, but spun away. And you can tell that Tim Franco is a Schmoedown Rundown fan because he moved the ticker away from Sandy B before doing so. And in doing so, he landed on Spinner's Choice. So what's the lesson to be learned here, folks? If you move the ticker to another category, good things will happen. And he took his desired category, which apparently is crime movies. So that is kind of an unorthodox selection. That is not something that most players would go with when it comes to Spinner's Choice. So I like that with a new player, we get some new tendencies, and this is something that we don't usually see. So I like that. But question 1, the bank jobs, Terry Leather, Jason Statham, Tank takes the lead, 12-11. Question 2, Sean Connery's Morgue Line in Untouchables, 14-11, the Tank. Question 3, Meat Cleaver, and that was a multiple choice that he missed. That was his first miss of the match. That was from Bonnie and Clyde, and Matchity stole that. So a little bit of hope there for Matchity, as Tank still had a 14-12 lead, though. And question 4, Al Pacino was taken down by Sosa in Scarface, 16-12. Tim Franco. That was the end of a 6-point turn for the Tank, 1 point steal by Matchity. So, Frank, thoughts on Tim's big round?
Yeah, it's a great round by Tim, and wasn't too surprised by it. A little surprised by the category, sure, but not surprised that he would perform well in whatever he picked. So I think it's unfortunate he got that Bonnie and Clyde question wrong, because he could have had a perfect match, and it would have tied Bibiani's 14-14. And he would have done it also with a multiple choice question the same way Bibiani did it. So it could have been exactly the same, but it wasn't. It's still an all-time performance, and I'll get into that when we wrap up this match.
I did perk up an ear when he had his choice and took crime movies. It surprised me, just given the age group of the late to the party gang and the current movie landscape. I just assumed that they would be comic book movies or something like that, just given. But kudos to him for taking crime and kicking its ass. Well done there. I don't really have much else to add. I think you guys have pretty much covered it.
Yeah, it was nice to see someone not take comic book movies or DC or Star Wars or whatever usual categories we're accustomed to. But heading into round 3, it is Tim Franco up 16-12. It's his match to lose. Matchity with his 2-pointer. The genie in Aladdin was trapped in the lamp for how many years? 10,000. He missed it. Tank retains his 4-point lead. Matchety gets his 3-point question via dodgeball. Peter LaFleur, 16-15 lead Matchety. And then for his 5-pointer, he gets a Pixar question, and he cannot name the young dinosaur. So that gave Tim Franco the win. Interesting takeaway here, though, is that Matchety got 2 animated questions in round 3. Aaron, you pointed out his animated question in round 1. And that seems to be the case with him, is that animation just comes back to haunt him, even though he's better than most, because I believe he's got a kid that means he has to go and see these things. So plus he's in the business and he does go to these screenings. So once again, though, animation comes back to haunt one of the really good players in this league. So Aaron, let me get your take on the conclusion of this match first.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing to hear him get 2 animated questions in the final round. Yeah. Of course, for different categories, not the same. But once the good dinosaur question was asked, I was talking to Frank about this off air. I just kind of sat my pen down as I was taking notes. It was like, yeah, this is over. Not because I didn't think Matt knew it. I just, animated is such an Achilles heel for so many competitors we've seen in the Schmoedown. And something I do know about Chris Skaliski in general is that he is a big animation and Disney fan. So these questions are going to keep popping up, guys. So if you take nothing else away from this show, study your animated. Change the ticker on the wheel and watch your animated.
And Frank, we talked about this earlier, but the Tank did not get a chance to earn 10 more points. He could have potentially scored 26 points in this match. Instead, he has to settle for 16. Give me your thoughts overall, though.
Overall, it's the second best debut match of all time. It sits behind Bibiani's perfect match when he went 14 for 14. Tim was 13 of 14 for a 92.86%. That puts him over Andreyko, who faced against Bibiani when he went 12 of 13. Clark Wolf also went 12 of 13 against Makuga in her first match when she won. And Mark Bernardin also went 12 of 13 against Nick Scarpino in his debut match. And those are all 92.31%. So he's just a smidge ahead of them because he answered one more and was asked one more question. So it's to be in the top 5 best debut matches of all time is a hell of an accomplishment any way you look at it. And it is damn impressive that someone who had never been on this stage, who's never been in this environment, can come off their couch, literally, and answer these questions and miss just one. I don't know what else to say, but to say that I am really, really looking forward to his next match, whenever that may be. And let me tell you, no one, and I think, Atchity said it in his post-match, he's like, you can't take fans lightly. And, we saw it late to the Party's match, and we saw with Tim, and, that whole group, they got something special going on, and they know their stuff.
What's the singles point record again? The total, not the percentage. Just the
23 points.
23 points. So, impressive match, even though he didn't get a round 3 question. And again, part of me wishes, just for the sake of numbers, that he could have had those 3 questions asked just to see what would have happened. But I understand that this is the way the game is played. Once you have that technical knockout, there's really no point playing any further unless you want to pad your stats, pad your fantasy stats. But everybody is at least curious, I'm sure. But I'm impressed by Tim Franco a great deal. However, Atchity couldn't get a categorical break to save his life by spinning romantic comedies in round 2. He drew multiple animated questions, especially those 2 in round 3. Franco got his desired category in crime films, and it was an unusual choice, as we mentioned, but kind of everything went his way on top of a lower degree of difficulty in round 1. And since Tim's cohorts didn't get their strengths in round 3, Tim was due for the opposite outcome in his match, where Atchity just did not get the right categories. So it all kind of balances out as far as late to the party. So as Aaron indicated earlier, you cannot ask for a better debut for both Tim and his teammates, Vanessa and Robert.
Yeah, just one more point I want to throw in there. I don't care if you're Christian Harloff, John Roca, Clark Wolf. If you come in your first match and you TKO somebody the caliber of Matt Atchity, respect.
Absolutely.
Best case scenario for late to the party this week. Moving to the post interview, Jen Sturger talked to Franco first, and he called out Robert Meyer Burnett, saying that he needs to grow a pair. He said, there were some scheduling issues, and Tim kind of gave the finger quotes in regards to scheduling issues, but it looks like those two are on a collision course. And Matt Atchity said that he drank a little too much rum, but he hinted that he wants Bibiani. He wants the Beast. That is a fascinating and intriguing matchup, to say the least. And I just want to say that sometimes when we see a disappointing singles performance, sometimes that carries over into the team performance or the next team match for that particular player. With Gray and Matt, I don't think this loss is going to affect them at Collision, since the categories just didn't go Matt's way this time. Again, sometimes we'll let a singles performance alter our perceptions of the team that this person is on. I think we've done that with Riley before, but it's not altering my opinion or my take on Rotten Tomatoes heading into Collision. Frank, are you at all fazed by Atchity's loss? Do you still view him as the elite player that he is?
Oh, he's definitely a top tier player in this league. He was 12 of 16. That's 75% correct. The league average right now with active players is 64%. So he's well above the league average, and he's above a lot of people's average in the top 10. You know, he's outdone by Merle, who's at 79%. He's outdone by Bibiani, who's at nearly 82%, which is super impressive, despite 2 losses. McWeeney's averaging 74%. He definitely is a top-tier player. He suffered a loss to one of the best debut matches ever. You know, that's nothing to be down about. And, you know, he's proved himself in the team division. So I have no reason to believe that he will have some sort of setback because of this match.
Aaron, does your perception of Rotten Tomatoes change at all with Matt Atchity's loss, or are you still viewing them the same way?
I still view them the same way. Nothing changes. I think, if anything, it was a chance for Matt to get his feet wet in singles. For a long time, he had avoided it, so it wasn't something he was interested in. Finally took a step in. He did fine, in my opinion. Some things didn't go his way, sure. But the fact that he and Bibbs is on the table, I just have 2 words: yes, please.
Oh man, just give it to me now. Give it to me now, Christian. I want that matchup right away.
If I'm Bibiani, I don't want that matchup right now. I don't, because Atchity's 0-1, Bibiani's 2-2. He should really be playing top 10 players right now. Atchity's at least got to get a win before he meets Bibiani, in my opinion.
Well,
at the very least.
I think if it can't be Bibiani, I think an interesting singles match for Matt Atchity could be somebody that Brian likes to talk about, Jim Vejvoda, coming to singles. I think that would be an intriguing.
I have another player in mind.
Okay.
JTE.
Oh, Little Evil himself. Sure, why not?
Interesting. I do like the Vejvoda thing, just because Atchity and Vejvoda were going back and forth in that recent Rotten Tomatoes and IGN match. So that is the only reason I favored that. Plus, it would be Jim's debut, and it's probably a better thing to have an 0-0 player go up against an 0-1 player versus Bibiani and his record. But JTE is intriguing as well. There's been some rumblings about JTE and RB3. I think, wasn't JTE rumored in another match as well? It doesn't matter. But look, I don't want Atchity to get discouraged by this loss. He played pretty well, all things considered. Those animated questions, though, set him back a great deal. So hopefully he goes back to the training room, gets a little brush up, a little touch up on his animation skills, because he's got them for the most part, but there's still little holes there. But I'm not worried about him whatsoever. Let's talk a bit more about the post-match hoopla. Makuga did his best Hulk Hogan impression, emphasis on his best in order to sell his new T-shirt that is modeled after the Hulkamania T-shirt of yesteryear. Aaron, thoughts on this, given your Hulk Hogan affinity?
Well, it is unfortunately for the Wild Man, it is the WCW Hulk Hogan font, so it's not really the classic 80s WWF, but That's just me. It's fine. It's a cool design. I'm sure people will buy it.
Well, to close out the match, we had Ricky whispering in Cody's ears. So more Ricky kayfabe. And I said this a few months ago. I said they've got to figure out a way to utilize the managers in a more effective manner. And they're coming at us with this Ricky stuff. And I'm damn intrigued, not just because he plugged the rundown last week, but this is what I wanted to see all along. We like seeing the behind the scenes, the backstage storylines that develop. There's more to mine in this league, within this show, just from an entertainment standpoint. And Ricky Hayberg is doing his best to bring it. Ricky's been more impressive in these little kayfabe bits than he ever was as an actual player.
I don't know if Ricky Hayberg and impressive belong in the same sentence personally, but I'll just leave that there.
This is his calling, in other words. This kayfabe stuff is his calling.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Frank, you were on assignment, as we said earlier, and during that assignment, you got an interview with Tim the Tank Franco. Let's hear what the winner has to say.
Here we are with Tim Franco. He just TKO'd Matt Atchity of Rotten Tomatoes. Tim, did you ever in your wildest dreams think, let alone winning, do you think you would ever TKO Matt Atchity?
It didn't cross my mind until I was sitting there as the second round was playing out, and I'm like, wow, I could actually TKO him if this works my way. And sure enough, it did, but it hadn't crossed my mind at all during the match. I just wanted to show up and actually perform well enough to not look like a complete loser, in the words of Dagnino. But yeah, I think I did very well.
Yeah, you also had quite an impressive first round as well. Tell us what was like going through that round and just getting them all right. What was that feeling like?
Well, as they kept coming, I was like, wow, I can actually answer all of these, I think, because everyone, pretty much everyone that came through wasn't a struggle to get, even the bonus question. They're all fairly easy for me to answer, and that they worked my way.
What did you think when Matt actually finally got one wrong? I think it was about question 5 or 6, whichever one it was. He finally got one wrong, but you got it right. What did you think when that happened?
It was that Lady in the Tramp question, and I was like, all right, let's do this.
Obviously, Robert Meyer Burnett is now a nemesis of yours because he backed out. Outside of Robert Meyer Burnett, who would you like to see? I mean, you've shown that, as Christian said, you've got the goods. So, and I've been watching your reaction videos along with Vanessa and Ashley and Robert, and I've always said if Tim ever got in there, he would crush it. You did. Who else out there do you think you can hang with now?
I really think I can hang with anyone at this point. I'm pretty confident in my overall knowledge. You know, I have some specialties, but I have a pretty good base coverage over everything to where I can perform well enough to get by, and then when I get the areas I know, I can really pull ahead. I mean, like today, I had a really good feeling about crime movies. It's something that I love the genre, and I had a good feeling. I went for it, and I'm really proud that I got that Scarface Souza question because I thought that was kind of a little bit of a deep cut, not for everyone maybe.
All right, Tim, thanks a lot, and I'm sure you're going to be back in the Schmoedown, so good luck in your future matches, man.
Well, I like the confidence from Tim the Tank Franco. You cannot ask for a better debut. And I like that he's willing to go up against just about anyone. So Late to the Party had a dream debut. And on that note, it's time for an iTunes ad.
We interrupt this amazing episode of the Schmoedown Rundown to bring you this news. Do you like what you've heard so far? Do you like the Schmoedown Rundown? And of course, why wouldn't you? Do us a favor. If you are listening on iTunes, please rate and review the show along with all the other shows on the Schmoedown feed. If you are watching via YouTube on the SK Plus channel, be sure to like and leave a comment. We would really appreciate that, and it will help out all the other shows on the channel, such as Outlaw Nation with John Roca, the Harloff Podcast with Christian Harloff, The Wanger Show, among the rest of the shows on the channel. Something new for everybody every single day, so definitely check out the SK Plus feed and the Schmoes Know iTunes feed. And now back to the best looking host on the channel, Aaron Turner. All right, guys, we're back with some team preview action. This week, it is the renewed rivalry of Tough Beats, Jonathan Boyko and Perry Nemiroff, versus friends of the show here, 6 Degrees of Feature Film, Brianne Chandler and Stacey Howard. Frank, do you have a telling stat for this match that we can all kind of gravitate on before making a prediction?
Here's something that I find interesting between both of these teams. They're not great at answering questions at a high rate. Tough Beats is at 55%, 6 Degrees is at just a shade under 57%. But the one thing that I would say to look out for is because 6 Degrees is at a 57% clip, it does give Tough Beats the opportunity to steal some points in that second round. And if we look at Tough Beats, they are 5 of 5 in steal opportunities. So if 6 Degrees opens that door just a little bit, Tough Beats could use that to their advantage and help them win the match and thus stay in the league. So I think that's the one thing we should all be looking at in that second round, is if Tough Beats can successfully steal points. And that will determine whether or not they win or lose this match.
Well, with that all being said, Brian, who you got?
Guys, Tough Beats will finally be put out of its misery. 6 Degrees will win easy. The bigger question isn't who will win, it's what 6 Degrees' entrance will be. Like I've said already, by the time Spider-Man Homecoming comes out on July 7th, Michael Douglas Keaton will be the only Vulture left in town.
Well done. Frank, we didn't get your take. Who do you think's going to pull this off?
Oh, this is tough, but I'm going to go with 6 Degrees. Because I think Stacey right now has got an odd hand, and I think she's feeling pretty confident. And I think Brianne, obviously she's been studying a lot, and I think she wants to put that to good use, so I think they pull out the win. And a close one.
Love to stay impartial on this show. That's what journalistic integrity is. But I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have a 6 Degrees shirt. I'm a fan. They're fans of ours. We're fans of theirs. I'll take 6 Degrees. Call me a homer if you want. I don't care. I think 6 Degrees will win. I think they'll win easily.
Homer.
All right, let's jump into the singles preview this week. It is Mark Ellis, Baby Carrots, for the first time in singles this season. We're not counting the free-for-all here. Versus Classy Clark Wolf, coming off her loss to her own partner, Mark Yodi Riley. Frank, do you have a telling stat for this match?
Well, not so much a telling stat, but just a way of the match. If the match goes a certain way, look, Wolf needs to have a monster first round because she is very shaky in the second round. She has some of the most worst luck I've seen in the second round. And I think when she gets rel in the second, it carries over to the third round as well. She's not that great. So she needs a monster first round to kind of help carry her through the rest of the match, because Ellis, he has very iffy first rounds. His second and third rounds are very strong. So if Wolf can kind of make up some ground that she's going to lose in the second and third round, she can keep it close, hopefully put the pressure on Ellis, and then somehow, some way, find a way to win. But I am going to take Ellis in a squeaker.
All right, what about you, Brian? What do you think?
This is a tough match to predict since Mark has been away from singles for quite a while. Obviously, Clark just lost to Riley a couple months ago. As much as I'd love to see Clark win, Ellis still has his stand-up steroids fueling his brain, so I expect Ellis to win in a very tight match, but Clark is owed some luck. She's had so many bad beats in this league. Just weird scenarios have occurred when she's been in gameplay, but I wouldn't be surprised if she finally got reimbursed some of those unlucky moments of past matches. So I won't be surprised if she pulls it out, but Ellis, man, I think he's taking it, but it's hard to pick between these two. It really is.
I'm a big fan of both of these competitors. This is a tough call, but somehow, some way, I feel like Baby Carrots is going to pull this off. He's rusty. Let's be honest. It's been a while. A free-for-all was a while ago, and he wasn't the best. And the Dan Merle match is even further away. But I still feel like that Ellis will find a way to pull it off. I think it's going to be a great match. I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy it, but I will take Baby Carrots still.
Stand-up steroids, man. That keeps him sharp no matter if he's playing or not.
Right on. All right, let's jump into your fan questions, the fan integration part of the show. We got a couple this week. I will start with Ryan Permisson, who asks, who would you put on the Mount Rushmore of Schmoedown singles, teams, and inner geekdom right now, and why? Brian, I'll start with you.
Well, just so everyone knows, I started the Mount Rushmore discussions many, many moons ago, but that's neither here nor there. When it comes to my singles Mount Rushmore, you got to go with Riley, Merle, Roca, because they're the three champs thus far. And the fourth person has to be the person who's developed this show and happens to be a damn good player in his own right, Mr. Handsome Harloff. I have more to say about this decision in our next question. My team Mount Rushmore will be the Patriots, Schmoes, top 10. Once again, you have to acknowledge champions and former champions first and foremost. But there's been a lot of turnover in the team league. Thus, that fourth spot is up for grabs still. However, I'm going to go with Rotten Tomatoes because they've been around for a long time before Collider, and they've been a part of some legendary matches. So right now, they are the fourth option, but there's not really that ideal fourth option. They are still the best bet right now. My inner geekdom Mount Rushmore, Navarro, Robert, Jeremy, and Cushing. Hector and Robert are automatics when you consider their spectacular performances and what happened post-spectacular. Then Cushing and Jeremy emerged next. And while Jeremy won a five-way that included a historic performance by Cushing, Jeremy proved himself by beating the former champ Robert Meyer Burnett right after that. So all that being said, I'm still not entirely comfortable picking a Mount Rushmore for a league that is barely just 6 months old. So we got to check back on that after a year or so.
Very well. Frank, what about you, man?
Well, jumping into the teams in Inner Geekdom, my Rushmores line up exactly with Brian for a lot of the same reasons. And one of the reasons I went with Rotten Tomatoes is because they've been here from the beginning, like the Schmoes in Top 10. And they've been in some very iconic matches, like Top 10 and even their match against the Schmoes in 2015. So they've been through a lot. Yes, and the IGN match, of course. One of the all-time great matches we've seen recently and just of all time. Now, getting into the singles, I do have Merle, Roca, Riley. I think that's a given for anyone's list. If not, I'd love to hear your reasons why. But the fourth person, I really had to think about it. Would it be Christian? Would it be Mark Ellis? And then I decided on Clark Wolf.
Oh.
And I decided on Clark Wolf because she's the first woman that we had in this league that took it by storm and that opened up doors for people like Rachel Cushing, Brianne Chandler, and Stacey Howard. And eventually we saw, the likes of Emma and Joelle, and then, Charlie and Erika Ishii and all these other women come into the league. And Clark Wolf demonstrated that it's not just a man's game. She demonstrated that women are just as knowledgeable at movie trivia, and I think that's a very important reason for this league, and that's why I decided to include her in my Mount Rushmore.
Well, I don't have much to say because Frank and my lists are the exact same. I have Clark in there. Clark is the Wonder Woman of this league. She went through no man's land and kicked ass on the other side. And that's why I have her in there. And I think she's, like Frank eloquently put it, I won't add anything else, but that's why I had her in there for all those same reasons. Everybody else pretty standard. I do agree with you about Inner Geekdom, though. I do think it's a little young. I think some people, if you polled maybe 10 people, I think some people would put in Kalinowski as well, which I would be fine if you want to interswitch Kalinowski in there based on his recent performance. But, for me, it's Rachel and all those people that have been previously named. But yeah, very weird that we all have the same list. It's kind of cool. All right, let's jump into our last fan question. This one comes from Evan DeGraff of Take 3. You're welcome. Whose Schmoedown career do you expect getting hurt the most during Collider Collision? This is interesting. This is an interesting one.
The easy answer is whomever loses the triple threat, as they'll be put out of title contention for a year or so, since they'll have to win 3 matches before getting another shot. And the way things are going right now with these matches, 3 matches will basically take a year to pull off, given the wait time in between. So Jeff Snyder is my other answer, because Handsome Harloff's nothing to lose mantra is just too powerful right now. That's why I put Handsome Harloff at 4th on my singles Mount Rushmore. Jeff has all the pressure on him, while Christian, as competitive as he is, has less pressure to perform, since he still wins even if he loses the match. More importantly, I expect Team Patriots to beat the crap out of Top 10, but it's asking a lot of Jeff to then beat Christian Harloff just a few days later at Collision. I mean, his streak has to stop at some point, and it's more likely to happen in singles, since you don't have a teammate to lean on if you're off your game, while the wheel is bound to betray anyone and everyone every 2 to 3 matches. So I think Snyder will suffer the most from Collision, since he was so close to entering the singles title picture. That's heartbreaking when you consider how close he was to having 2 out of the 3 belts.
You make a great point about Jeff. I did consider him, but I think the person that could be damaged the most at Collision, oddly enough, is the commissioner. For the reason being that how close, this is the closest that Christian's ever been to a singles championship. They've been team champions, he and Mark. They got smoked by Top 10. There's no denying it. Got smoked by him, got knocked out, got their titles taken away, got beat by him again as well earlier this year. And Christian is as close as he's ever been to that championship. And if he loses, who knows when he's going to get that shot again, based on how many new players we have in this league. Is he retiring? Who knows? His mood changes day to day on that kind of stuff. I don't know. But I think he has the most to lose here. As someone that is he's a very competitive person, I'm sure he wouldn't mind being the champion. I'm sure he also wouldn't mind taking a step back, but I feel like he's got a lot to lose here.
Even if he wins or loses, no matter what, the fans are going to say if he wins, oh my God, you won because you're the commissioner. But if he loses, they're going to say, oh, you already checked out. You said after your last match that there was so much criticism that you didn't even want to play. So he's kind of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. I hope I got the expression right. But you're absolutely right. He's kind of in this no-win situation. But like I said, there's so much power in playing with no pressure and nothing to lose, really. But obviously there are outside factors that make things difficult in other ways.
I'll be sure to timestamp that. You're absolutely right, and just replay that over and over and over again for when I'm having a bad day. Frank, what do you think?
I think the team that has the most to lose here is Rotten Tomatoes. They're so close to a title shot once again. They got denied by the Schmoes. They lost an epic match to Top 10 last year. Always been so close. And to get denied by a team in Nerds Watch that just came onto the scene this season, it's kind of heartbreaking for them because they've been in it since the beginning. And here comes Nerds Watch, this new team with this hot new young prodigy and Rachel Cushing and Ken Knapsack, all the charisma he possesses. If they were to lose to them, that's gotta hurt real bad, more than any other match, that they've ever lost. So I think if they were to lose this one, no telling how long it might be before they come back now that Matt is getting more and more invested in the singles division.
Just to clarify, you're not saying that Ken is a young hot commodity as well, or?
I must have got my words mixed up. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, like you said, Rachel was a hot commodity. I was like, are you saying that Ken is not a hot commodity? What's going on here?
Aaron,
we love the pit boss here. Ken, we love you. You are a hot commodity to me. So let's put it that way. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. Now, normally I would let everybody do their plugs before me, but not this time. I'm being selfish. I'm going to do mine beforehand because I got a lot to talk about. So first of all, you can follow me on Twitter at ATTitanium. If you want to do that there, that would be awesome. Thanks to you guys that supported my YouTube video that I put up on my YouTube channel, which for now is called Aaron's World. you want to check that out. It's probably going to get a different name. But thank
Aaron's
you guys.
Blood.
Yeah, sure. But thank you for checking out my wrestling video that I put up when I recap Money in the Bank. It's actually going to turn into something really cool with me and my buddy Shane Nixon. We're going to start doing recaps on every WWE pay-per-view. So about every 2 weeks, we're going to throw out a podcast. So appreciate your guys' support there. It's going to be called Wanna Wrestle, and we're pretty excited about it. So we hope you'll support us there. That's really all I've got with all my plugs. PlayStation Network, Titan 7817 if you want to kill some stuff. Frank Janisch, how about you, man? What you got going on?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at FrankieJ29. Look out this weekend, Sunday, Monday-ish, for the weekly recap on schmoedown.com. It is going to be super, super stat heavy. It's going to blow your mind whole. I'm telling you, there's stats coming out of the woodwork for this one from this past week. There's so much to go into. And then also, I just did my very first movie review for Baby Driver. It's a pinned tweet on my Twitter if you want to go look that up, or just search my name, Frank Janisch, on YouTube and give that a look if you would. Thanks.
Baby Janisch.
Spoilers, he wears glasses in the thumbnail. Brian Davids, where you can be found, man? What do you got going on?
You can't forget about his earbuds either. That was the ultimate touch. You guys can follow me, Brian Davids, on Twitter at BDF331. Check out my TV film podcast at filmschlubspodcast.com or wherever podcasts are found. I've got so many good interviews and whatnot coming up. I just wish I had more time to edit them, but they're coming, rest assured. Special thanks to Clint Lajeunesse at Floyd Pinkster, as well as Shane Bowman at HeisenbergChronicles.com. Can't forget about Ray Ora either, for all their great help with graphics as usual.
And quick shout out to Robert Butler III and Cody Hall for fixing a little problem, a little snafu that we had last week. Appreciate their time, as always, and helping us get the show out.
That'll do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for joining us, and until next time, bye-bye.